Hello, here I have Droid Bot M and Droid Bot E. These are robot designs from the websites flltutorials.com or primelessons.org. They are good robot bases that you can use in First Lego League. They got nice, quick attachment systems. So you can find the instructions for these robots on those sites. But the instructions do not include how to do the wiring for these robots. So if you just follow those instructions, you may have the wires just coming out every which way, and that might get tangled up in your wheels, or just rub against attachments, or it might make it hard to put the attachments on. A lot of things I tried with this one, the wires ended up going up through here, and so they'd stop the attachment from slipping on very easily. So I'm going to show what I came up with for how to route these wires. This one for the Droid Bot M there was a video that showed this robot in operation, so I kind of knew where the wires went on the top. But this is just what I came up with. It's not necessarily the best or the official way to route these wires, but hopefully it'll help you. So for this one, we have these wires in the front, and they're all going down through this hole here. And you want to make sure they go down and they don't impede this quick attachment system. And then in the back, they're just going straight down there. So I'm going to take this apart for a second. Okay, so I've kind of taken this robot apart. I've removed this back piece here, and there's this beam which goes across here, which you can also remove. Now the instructions have these wire clips here. So one thing I want to talk about here is that if you have just the Spike Prime base set, it's going to have these pins, which have a pin on one side and an axle on another side. And that's what you use to attach these wire clips. But these tan ones are not friction pins, so these kind of just spin around. So I prefer something which is going to hold them so that they can move, but they don't freely spin around. So these are the blue pins, which have the friction attachment here. And if you have the expansion set, the Spike Prime expansion set, you'll get a bunch of these, or they're pretty common, just Lego pieces. So a lot of the instructions will be using these tan ones to attach these wire clips. I generally recommend using these blue ones instead. So we've got 3 ports kind of in the front, and we've got 3 ports in the back. And then we have these wires are all coming basically from the back. We've got the 2 light sensors here. The wires are coming from them. And then we got the 4 motor wires coming here. So what I ended up doing is, I guess looks like, so these small attachment motors, it looks like those are the ones that I routed to the front, and then one of these wheel motors. And so the wheel motor will go here into port A, C, I think. Oh, it's upside the D and C. So anyway, you'll have your main drive motors on either side here, and then you would have your attachment motors here, and then these would be the light sensors. That can, it doesn't really matter what ports you plug it into. It's more about what's convenient for the wire routing. So that's just what I ended up here. And so we have this space under here, and that's where you can stuff your wires. So you want to run those 3 wires up through this little hole here, and you'll have to do that as you're building the robot, or you'll have to disassemble the robot a little bit to open it up so that these wires can fit through there. But plug them all in, and then you've got all of this mess of wire. How do you deal with that? Well, generally, what you want to do a lot of times is, if you want to shorten the wire, is you just fold it back on itself, something like that. And then sometimes you'll clip it to something to hold it in place. Now, there's this channel between these motors here. So that's actually pretty convenient for stowing these wires here. So I've got 2 of these motor wires, I think, running back and forth here, kind of like that. and you can just kind of stuff them down in there, and if they stay there, then great. If not, you could use one of these clips and use the wire clips to hold it in place. So that's got those 3 wires kind of stowed nicely away here. And then we've got these 2 wires, which are going to be attached to the light sensor. And so then we have this other drive motor. Okay, so this other drive motor is going to come from here, and it's going to go up here. So we want to stuff that in here. The other thing I forgot to mention is that I think I added these 2 clips. I don't think those were in the original building instructions, but you know, in order to have all of these 3 wires coming down nice and neatly, I added those clips, and they hold those in place nicely for the wires that go to these light sensors. Anyway, so we have the next step. We've got all the wires going to the front, and we're going to attach this last, so we're going to do these 2 wires last. So this is the wire to do now, this drive motor. And, you know, probably we just want to stick it in here, and, you know, we want it not to be dragging on the ground, and we want it not to be, you know, interfering with anything else. So here we'll, you know, maybe we can just put a clip here, like that, and then attach that there. Okay, so now that's held nicely in place. Now, then the last thing is these wires for the light sensors. We could also stuff them in here, but when we attach this, there's some space here behind there, so that's what I think I'm going to prefer. And before we put this on, we need to put this axle in here. So that can also, this axle here can also kind of hold your wires from falling down there a little bit. Okay, so then we want to put this on. So we're going to put that on like that. And then we're going to line it up and put these pins in to hold it in place. Other side. There's a wire in the way there, I think. Okay, got that wire out of the way, so that will fit right. Okay, and then, you know, there's kind of just space down there, so if we can just kind of fold these over and shove them down, if they'll stay in place there and aren't going to fall out and drag, then that should be sufficient. So fold that in, and you know, that might not be the best, but we can try that. Okay, so that's probably good. If then sends up, I put it on upside down. Let's try that again.
You'll have to do a cut, right?
Okay, so let's put this on correctly. It goes on like this. That's gonna work a lot better. Okay, so now can we get these to fit down in here nicely? And you know, you might use something to kind of poke it down in there if your fingers are fat like mine are. Fold it over. And there's a mess of wires down in there. It's probably gonna stay. If it doesn't, you know, we could add some more stuff to that. So there is our Droid Bot M with some nicely routed wires. You know, we put the attachment on, the wires are nicely out of the way there. So that's Droid Bot M. Now, Droid Bot E. I'm not going to go over in as much detail. I'll just kind of explain what I did, but this one was way harder for me to figure out. And you've got a bunch of wires coming out the front here from these light sensors and from the motor here. And you don't have much room to route them here. I thought that it would go like through the front here, like from here, through the front. Didn't work. It was always getting in the way of these gears, which come down. And there was just a lot of wire. So like just trying to bunch up the wires up here didn't really seem to work. It would look like it would interfere with the wheels. So what I did was I went under and to the other side with these to use up the length. So you have this piece here. There's some space between these motors, a few bricks high under here. So that's where I'm routing a lot of the wires. So the light sensor wires go through this piece which attaches the ball. They kind of go crosswise through that, and then they go down under here, and they're just behind this plate, and then they come out here, and then they're routed around and up to the brick here. And similar, these wires from these large motors are actually going down in here and going through there the other way, and then they're coming up right here. So they come up right here and they split off, and then they go through this loop here to use up the length of the wire, have these clips on here, and so that's where those ones go. And then finally these drive wheel motors, I couldn't figure out any other way to do it than to actually route them right next to the wheels. But if you keep them short enough, it looks like they probably won't interfere with the wheel. So that is coming right up here, going behind the wheel. And then to use up the length, it actually, I think, goes across to the other side, and I think that's this one. So it goes across to the other side and up, and then plugs in here. So that is the best way I could figure it out. And I think it works decently well. As you're building, if you're trying to do it as you're building it, it's probably easier than doing it at the end like I did. But I don't know what steps you would do the wire routing or how that would work. But hopefully that's a little bit of a hint so you're not completely lost like I was at the start and don't really have an idea of how to get a good wire routing. So anyway, these are great robots. Don't know if we'll use either of them this season for our robot game. We're going to have the kids do some experiments and testing on the robots to see which one they think would work best. But I really love these quick attachment systems. So check them out. Hope that was helpful.